Welcome to Proles of the Round Table, but Dialectics After Dark, our patron bonus, our monthly patron bonus episode. This is where we just kind of talk about current events. We answer some of your questions. We just kind of, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is just kind of the, this is the space for the takes that are like too hot and the jokes that are too funny for the main feed.
You say that like we don't whisper death to America in every fucking episode now.
We'll somehow get like spicier than that in this. All right. So, so I'm Ethan. I'll be reading your terrible takes tonight. I'm drinking a Hoegaarden, which is an original Belgian wheat beer, Anno 1445.
I'm Jeremy. I am drinking a Victoria, which is a Mexican lager, and it is quite delightful.
I'm Justin, and I'm drinking Ballast Point's Sculpin IPA.
I'm Ezra, and I'm drinking Peach Pear La Croix.
And I'm Taylor, and I'm drinking Melvin Hubert MPA.
What's an MPA?
Melvin Pale Ale. It's just dumb
Corny,
marketing
so
shit.
bad.
Okay.
God damn it.
It's like they've got DPAs, Denver Pale Ales.
Stupid.
It's so stupid. Like,
So the first segment that we're going to do here, for some reason, we started calling it The Pick. And this is where we read several...
For some reason.
I don't remember the story.
No, it's like hot takes to your brain, like a pick to...
Before we started
yes.
this, we watched the finale of the show on Netflix, which is like it ends with his death, and it is wild,
and
y'all.
we gave a round.
Spoiler alert.
We gave a round of applause to when Ramon Mercader put an ice pick in his head.
It's wild. I mean, I do want to talk about that. It's maybe not tonight, but like at some point, I feel like we should talk about more, just because it's wild. Like the ideology at play here.
You know what we should do is go back on Left Media and make them watch the way that they made us watch the death of Stalin.
Absolutely. So this first segment, the way this works is we've got the various newspapers of record in the United States, and we read the stuff that they're putting out as if that's like the stuff that they're treating as news and the stuff that people are treating as like valuable commentary. Like this is where normies get their news, I'm assuming. But anyway, so we're going to start with the New York Times. We're going to read every single article. No, I'm going to pick the ones that sound interesting. So there are several articles about the government shutdown, which is entering its third week. I don't have much to say about that. Let's see here.
It's shocking which parts of the government remain open.
Right?
It's usually
Democratic support.
the killy parts.
So this first piece is called After a Rocky 2018, Populism is Down but Far From Out in the West. We've discussed this a couple times, like these articles like talking about populism, and I don't know necessarily what they mean.
Well, because they don't. They don't know what they mean.
It
It
just means
changes.
that like a lot of poor people like it is basically what they mean when they say populism, I think.
Do poor
In
people
their
like
minds.
Trump?
In their minds, though, that's the thing. Like, there's this like narrative that it was a bunch of like yokels from the
right.
backwoods
Yeah.
who voted for Donald Trump, and that's
Which is
why.
not-
That's why. No, it's a bunch of like middle class.
Yeah, it's like
And upper class
suburban-
white people, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So President Trump's push for a border wall hints at a problem that populist leaders are facing across the Western world. Let's see here.
Well, what other populist leaders are they trying to talk about? Like,
Bolsonaro.
well, right, but that's not
The
populism.
president,
Like,
the new president of
that's
Mexico.
so fucking stupid.
Yeah, no, of course it is.
But they say like Bernie, for instance, is left populist, and Trump was supposedly right populist, and
So, like-
Bolsonaro was right populist, and
Maybe I have a bad interpretation of what populism is, but especially the way that they use it, obviously is not like grounded in material,
yeah.
or like historical context. There's no real like definable way to approach what. These people
but
mean.
that's
this
how it
person,
is.
this author defines it. He
Oh
says,
shit! Here we
Without
go.
a crisis to justify populism's hardline policies, its message has been stripped down to its most core element: opposition to liberal ideals of pluralism, multiculturalism, and international cooperation.
So specifically right-wing populism, then,
I guess.
is what they're talking about.
The result is a new phase in the populist era, one that will test populism's appeal and that of its ideological rival, post-war establishment liberalism, as never before.
Ugh. How about both of them can fuck off?
Yeah, it's terrible. So mostly, so this is just going over stuff like, it's talking about Brexit, the rise of alternative for Germany and Germany.
And it's funny because they frame Brexit as being like this like vast right-wing thing, and that again it's a bunch of like people from the backwoods and people from industrial cities in Britain, whatever, poor people essentially who supported Brexit, who don't know what they're talking about. But there's a significant contingent on the left who want it out because they see the European Union as being an imperialist power,
right,
and that exiting from it is weakening it, which it's complicated because it's complicated, but
Well, but again, you gotta like delve into the mind of a liberal when you read these things and think, well, what they see themselves as like, oh, like me and my ideology, I'm the savior of
exactly
the world at large, and like I'm so much smarter than everybody else. It's the TFW, too smart, like ideology,
too intelligent,
too intelligent,
TO intelligent,
or TO intelligent, yeah. No, so this ends. Even in countries like Germany or France, where centrist leaders hold power, the establishment party system has collapsed. Seva Gunitsky, University of Toronto political scientist, has argued that the distinction between democracy and authoritarianism is already blurring, with more elected leaders taking on the tools and tactics of strongmen.
What? You mean Western democracy?
Hold on. Post-war liberal democracy is simply too new of a system, scholars of democracy say, to know whether it can survive these challenges. We may look back at 2016 as a populist blip associated with one-off crises, or as the beginning of a process of chipping away at liberal democracy from within.
I mean, liberal capitalism is incredible at like juking on any sort of movement that tries to take it out. It is. I mean, it's phenomenal. Like I've had this argument with this doofus anarchist that I'm friends with, and back in like 2012, when I first was like a baby socialist or whatever, I was like, I think things are really like changing. I think in the next few years we're going to see like a massive left movement that has the potential to, and he was like, nah. He's like, I don't think so. And I was like, what? And he's like, no. He's like, capitalism has shown again and again that it's able to adapt to changing conditions, and it will just keep doing that. And I was like, that's really pessimistic. But it is. I mean, like you look at like all of these crises that it's faced, and it like there have been times like in the mid to late 19th century or the early 20th century or the mid 20th century where there were these like points where it was like breaking, and then it just snaps back. Like it's unreal.
So if you're going to say that, you have to analyze like how it adapted, right?
Yeah.
The methods in which it was able to adapt.
Yeah.
And I don't think that capitalism has any more ways to adapt.
It's possible. I mean, like there, but
you
like
never know. They probably thought that 40 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Like that's I mean, look at the emergence of information technology as a commodity, because in the past you had a specific number of things, right? And you could buy that specific number of things, and you could create artificial skulcity by restricting production, or sometimes
Hoarding
grain or whatever general kulak bullshit. But now the entire industry of information technology is built on artificial scarcity. There is no scarcity of software. You could like replicate the same software as many times as you want.
Yeah.
And it never decreases the value. Exactly. Well, it never changes the value in terms of cost. Not value.
Something that shows me that blows my mind every time is if you've used a local library, like an ebook lending thing, like literally they only have a couple of digital copies that they can lend out at any given time.
Exactly.
Which is absurd.
Because they have to pay for the licenses.
Exactly. Right. You've got you can create something from nothing basically, and you're still we got to make money on it.
Yep.
So
Here's my thing though. So in the post-war era, the wages were good, right? Which is how they were able to boost, wages plus taxes.
Sure.
Is how they were able to boost the economy. When we had the crash, in the 70s, 60s, late 60s and 70s, they couldn't pay anybody more money. They couldn't tax anybody anymore. So they created a debt market, and that's how they, artificially paid people.
Sure.
But now that we haven't had real wage increases in 30 years, and the debt market is drowning, there is no other way to get people to buy things.
Yeah, I mean, capitalism is probably more fucked now than it has been at least in 100 years. But to say that we can't, just because we can't see a way it's going to adapt doesn't mean that it won't.
right.
Well, and it might not. It might not ultimately be adaptation, but rather changing. Like obviously, we've seen this before in post World War I Germany with the inflation,
Right.
and like this is exactly what we're pushing towards.
That
is
leads
you had
towards revolution.
right. You had the fucking SDP sitting there. Punishing and pushing out actual
Austerity
leftists
measures
from fucking politics, and this all goes into like Lenin. Like when we talk about Lenin a lot, but it's really frustrating.
Read Lenin.
Well, yeah, read Lenin, but like the failings of capitalism lead to the export of misery to the global south for extraction of capital for the imperialist core. And then as that progresses, and even as that gets more difficult, and as markets get more unsustainable, then you push your way into centralization of markets into the hands of corporations and private interests.
Yeah.
And as the government continues to push people or push for the ability for corporations to do that, you get what happened in Germany.
Yeah.
And it's
But the problem is, are we going to see a leftist revolution, or are we going to get fascism again?
Well, that's
That's
why
the
we
real
need
question.
to. We need to. I mean, that's why on the
that's-
left, we need to be preparing because something's going to happen. Something big is going to happen. There probably will be an opportunity, like one of these world historical things that only comes along every however long. But if we're not ready, if we're not prepared, if we're not able, if we don't have the structures in place to harness this energy that's going to be coming from the working class all over the world, we're going to get fascism and it's going to be bad.
Yeah, no, and that's sort of the scary thing. The fucking it's depressing and it's sort of discouraging on the one hand, but there's a quote that people have attributed to Martin Luther King Jr. and then that's not true, and then other people are like, oh no, is by Martin Luther, and that's also not true. As best as anybody,
Then the next one's from Martin.
it's from Martin. Yeah. As best as anybody can figure out, it was literally printed on the cover of a Lutheran Sunday school program, but it's really profound, and it's stuck with me for a long time. And the quote is, even if I knew that tomorrow the world was going to burn, I would still plant my apple tree, which is sort of how I feel. It's like the future does not look bright to me, but I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep fighting for, communism and for the future and for hope for humanity. But that's, I don't know. That's my take.
Well, and there's a quote from Kafka, which is basically, there is hope, but not for us. It's
Yeah,
the kind of
that's
thing
rough.
that you're not, maybe none of us,
Yeah.
maybe us, and maybe even our children are
Sure.
gonna get, have a terrible time, live in just immiseration, but it's establishing at some point in the future that maybe, we got to fight. You can't
Can't give up.
You can't give up. You can't give into the misanthropy and the nihilism, because that is, that's the ultimate. Because
We got really fucking heavy. This is supposed to be a joke
we
episode.
started, what are we doing? We started at the beginning. Oh, that's good. All right. Anyway, no.
Where's the comedy?
How to make a bucking bull, good breeding, and just maybe a cow's love.
What in the fuck?
Alexa, play Barry White.
Can't get enough of your love, baby.
Yeah, I'm not gonna read that. Let's see. The sounds that haunted U.S. diplomats in Cuba. lovelorn crickets, scientists say.
What?
Wait,
Diplomatic officials may have been targeted with an unknown weapon in Havana.
What
But a
the
recording of one sonic attack actually is the singing of a very loud cricket. A new analysis concludes.
Oh my
cricket
God.
single-handedly undermining U.S.
Comrade
attempts.
cricket.
They've been bred to annoy diplomats. That's what it is.
Fidel's like super cricket soldiers. This is by Carl Zimmer. In November 2016, American diplomats in Cuba. Fuck, I remember hearing about this,
Yeah,
and it
this
was
was
ridiculous.
wild.
American diplomats in Cuba complained of persistent high-pitched sounds followed by a range of symptoms, including headaches, nausea, and hearing loss.
White people be wild.
Exams of nearly 24 of them eventually revealed signs of concussions or other brain injuries, and speculation about the cause turned to weapons that blast sound or microwaves.
Oh my God.
Amid an international uproar, a recording of the sinister droning was widely circulated in news media. On Friday, 2 scientists presented evidence that those sounds were not so mysterious after all. They were made by crickets, the researchers concluded.
This is like that fucking.
That's not to say the diplomats weren't attacked, the scientists added.
What?
Only that the recording is not of a sonic weapon.
Oh my God. This is like the fucking MSG scare in the 90s, right? Like they it was all racist, right? They were like, oh, they put
yeah.
MSG in. By the way, MSG is fucking delicious. They put
MSG is literally just derived from seaweed.
Yes.
The M stands for
So good. That's what it is.
It's that's what it stands for. So good.
If you go on our website, you can just buy a bottle of Proles brand MSG. Just squirt that in like everything.
It's manufactured in China, delivered by hand by President Xi. Okay,
Pros of the Round Table MSG.
so good. So good. Anyway, Justin's dying over here. Okay. So in the 90s, there was this scare that came out, and they were like, "Oh, they put MSG into their food, and it gives everybody headaches, and it makes people nauseated, and God knows what it's doing to your body, right?" So just like in the last few years, they did one of those like Dateline shits to like revisit the story that they had run in the 90s about MSG, and they had a whole bunch of people who
MSG, where is it now?
yeah, MSG, where are they now? So they had all these people come into like into this room because they claimed to be allergic to MSG, and then they were like, okay, so we want you to try some different foods, and you tell us what your reaction is to it, like whatever. There is an enormous amount of American, like U.S. snack foods which contain MSG, and so they fed them a bunch of these fucking snacks, and they were like, "How do you feel about that?" "Oh, that was pretty good. I like that." You know, they like ran it as like y'all are testing new products, right? And they were like, "Oh, this is pretty good. I like it." And they were like, "How do you feel?" Any sort of and they're like, "Oh, we feel great," or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, by the way, there's MSG in that shit." And
they're like, "Oh, suddenly
"Really?
I feel bad."
Oh my God, I have a headache now. So, but yeah, no, like anyway, the point is like it's racist, like yellow peril bullshit.
This scientist, when he first heard the recording, he was reminded of insects he came across while doing field work in the Caribbean. When he and the other doctor downloaded the sound file, they found that its acoustic patterns, such as the rate of pulses and strongest frequencies, were very similar to the songs of certain kinds of insects. Anyway, so they figured out it's from the Indies short-tailed cricket. Yet the cricket's song differs in one important aspect. The noises heard by the diplomats were erratic, while the insects make high-pitched, rapid-fire pulses. And so the scientist, he played the cricket recording in a house, and as the calls bounced off the wall, they echoed in a pattern similar to the irregular pulses heard on the Cuban recording.
Amazing.
And so...
Sonic weapons.
Yep.
I mean, I like, if you've ever had a cricket in your fucking bedroom and you can't find it, it's annoying as shit.
Oh, it's the worst.
But I've never been like, I think the U.S. government is sending sonic weapons into my earballs.
The scientist, he said his conclusion does not rule out an attack on American diplomats, but the sounds linked to the initial complaints may have been a red herring. It's entirely possible that they got sick with some other completely unrelated thing that was not a sonic attack, or that they were targeted in some other way.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking
This is
wild.
the premise for the next James Bond movie, right?
Probably.
He's got to go to some
Hunting down crickets.
pastiche of a fucking communist country and hunt down sonic weapons.
I'm just like, what's the theme song? What's the opening theme song for that one?
Oh man, it's gonna be Cardi B.
Cardi B. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be Cardi B, and it's just gonna be like the typical James Bond opening, just weird shit happening the
Yeah,
whole time.
crickets like floating across the screen,
yeah,
like
perfect.
in like profile, like silhouette.
And I think Martin, what's his name? Martin Freeman is the new James Bond.
Oh,
I think
God.
we've
I was
debated
hoping
this
for
long
Idris
enough.
Elba.
I mean, I didn't
want the
care
old
who
Bond.
it was because
Let's
like
do
I like James Bond as like an action movie. Obviously, James Bond is highly problematic.
Yeah.
But it's fun to see like a spy do spy shit.
Hey, okay, let me pitch you something. So we've
Okay.
got Idris Elba not playing James Bond, but playing a spy from some sort of African country.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've also got someone like a spy from Ireland, and you've got a spy from so you've got.
Is this like a setup for like one of those jokes, like an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman going to a bar?
This is a pitch for a movie that would be really cool. You've got a team of spies from former colonies, all from former colonies of England, all working together to fucking assassinate the Queen.
Oh wait,
Steal the crown jewels
Did the
or
Queen
something.
die today?
No,
Oh damn,
she's like 120 years old.
She
It's
is
ridiculous.
not.
she's like
120 years old.
92 or something.
She's way older than she deserves to
Well,
be.
that's true. But no, did you not see the memes about like somebody like posted a meme that was like, oh, like the Queen's gonna die on January 5th, and like a bunch of people made more memes.
Wait, what?
Where yeah,
No, I didn't see that.
Somebody posted something on Twitter or something that I saw, and it was just like I read up this whole thing where like a week and a half ago, some person on like Reddit or Twitter or something was like, oh, the Queen's gonna die on January 5th, and so I just like dove into this rabbit hole last
British
night.
listeners, this is where you'll want to turn off the.
You probably wanted to turn that off a little while ago. No, that was it's the problem is it's already the 6th in
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to know if the Queen died.
jolly old England.
Yeah. Well.
Cuba's next transformation. 60 years after the revolution, a communist stalwart may be moving closer to democracy.
Gross. There's so many
closer
things.
to democracy than communism.
Yeah.
Okay. On the 6th, well, this is nice. On the 60th anniversary of the Cuban Revolution, which the ruling Communist Party celebrated on Tuesday, the island nation is stable, having overcome such existential threats as the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. I wish we'd done an episode on that. Sad. The context for that is we did, and then the audio got fucked up. Sad. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 and a half century of diplomatic isolation, withering economic sanctions imposed by the United States. Okay, so they're talking about for the first time since 1959. In other words, Cuba is ruled by someone other than a Castro. Sad.
Ruled by
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
other.
And it has handled the transition without the drama or bloodshed.
I wonder if they say ruled by when they talk about
The Bushes.
no, the Queen, the Queen.
Yeah,
Queen
ruled by.
Queen Mom.
Not the Queen Mum.
No,
The Queen Mum was never queen.
No, I know, but
Come on, y'all.
She's the Queen's mum.
Correct.
I can't describe how little I care about like all the British monarchy shit. Like
Like, but the way that like a lot of Brits.
Duke of Cornwall, governor.
Stop.
No, stop. Ethan banned from accents.
No, you could do
My
white
accents are real bad.
No, but
I can do
the-
what?
You can do white accents.
White accents? Okay, that's fine.
The way
Thank
that a lot of Brits just love the Queen, like to like a
Oh, yeah.
worship kind of idolize.
Sure.
Idealize.
But they don't treat it. Oh, I actually did see like a fucking documentary that compared. They used audio from CNN over talking about North Korea and Kim Jong-un, and then they played it over the top of the Queen's birthday, I think, or maybe it was the royal wedding. They played it over the audio for the royal wedding, and it was incredible because it was like they worship their leader almost like a deity, and it's got like all these people like waving British flags and like crying, and people get very emotional about their dictator.
It's so true. Fuck. There, like in the 80s, there was, I don't remember what country they were from, but there were a couple of African anthropologists who came to, they went to like Western Europe and did like a ethnography documentary just talking about Western Europe the way that a lot of Western European anthropologists talked about like African countries. It's
good.
Fucking wild. You've seen this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I saw it back in school. All right. So anyway, okay, so the Cuban communist system shows no signs of collapse, but the internal struggle over whether to have more democracy or continued dictatorship is well underway in Cuba.
Jesus.
Although it is not couched in those terms. It says, how that struggle is resolved will determine the nation's future. Although most of the debate is conducted in a rhetoric that is almost liturgical in its strictures, there is a growing space for differing points of view. It is increasingly clear that Cuban society is no longer, if it ever was, a homogenous block of revolutionary workers willing to simply applaud or fall silent at the decisions of their leaders.
What?
This is racist.
Yes.
So, talking about the changes to the Constitution, not all of the changes are progressive. In response to widespread public demand, clause was dropped. This is talking about the same-sex marriage thing, which is complicated. It's not what the media tells you it is.
Yeah.
Another alteration reinstated language that describes Cuba's ultimate political goal as, quote, advancing toward communism. Sad. Not progressive. There was
Somehow progressing towards communism is a bad thing.
There was also public pushback against a draft law prohibiting the accumulation of private property. In response, the government agreed to a compromise in which state regulators will decide what property can be owned case by case. So anyway, so the point of this is that this wrangling underscores the evolving struggle over the nature of the Cuban state. Some of the
So what you're
concerns-
saying is we ought to have the proles commune in Cuba.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, basically. It says so. Yeah, it's just talking about the main concern of the government is how to sustain an economy that had a dismal 1.4% growth rate last year, and how to maintain its free education and healthcare systems, as well as its food security and housing and job programs, while balancing the budget.
So none of these things ever talk about like growth in comparison to replacement rate and stuff like that, right? Like growth isn't what we should be aiming for. Like growing the economy in nations that have been historically exploited, yeah, like they need to grow. They need that because they've been robbed of it by the West. But like when we're talking about countries like Cuba, like they're a net zero green country. They're one of the only ones, if not the only one, that's actively net zero green right now. Like fuck growth. They're doing fine. Why does it have to be about growth? That's the thing. Is like these fuckers never talk about that. Like, well, they haven't grown a whole lot.
They also don't do any comparison to other nations of similar like size and population and
Right.
yeah, like I did one of these like comparisons between Cuba and the Dominican Republic, and it's amazing how much better off Cuba is than the Dominican Republic in terms of like condition for its people, in terms of debt to what is it called?
The IMF.
No. Like the amount of like revenue to debt.
Like debt to
yeah,
revenue
debt to
I
revenue
don't
or
remember
whatever.
what that's called. Fucking thing.
Like, although part of that is because there was like
Real economics hours.
there was like $25 billion or 20. No, it wasn't that much. Maybe it's 25 million. It was like $25 million of debt that was taken on by the Batista government. That when Fidel Castro took power, he was like, I don't recognize that. I didn't sign up for it. And so these American banks were like, but we fucking loaned it to your country. And he's like, yeet. And he was like, I refuse to recognize it. So there's like two different sets of numbers. There's a set of numbers that incorporates that debt into like calculating it. But since since Cuba's not paying it, it has no bearing on anything, even though it's continued to accumulate interest as though it matters.
Yeah, so this thing is, so it's talking about the State Department. So because of the Sonic attacks, the State Department, which we just debunked a minute ago, the State Department has moved its consular services for Cubans to its embassy in Guyana, 2,000 miles away. In fall, the National Security Advisor John Bolton castigated Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela as a, quote, troika of tyranny.
Jesus.
And John Bolton is
A monster.
fucking monster.
A monster.
And vowed to enact policies that would help bring down their governments. And so that's what... and that's the thing that you need to think about anytime you're reading this shit about like Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, or all of that. The administration of the United States government like is not hiding the fact that they think that these governments need to collapse. So anytime you've got a big paper like the New York Times or whatever talking about, like, saying critical things, like, you need to look at who's funding them, whose interests are being served.
Also, John Bolton is like
John Bolton is a sociopath.
He's stupid Henry Kissinger.
Yeah. That's good. Cuba's rulers also need, this is the last paragraph. Cuba's rulers also need to continue to open up, just as it did 60 years ago with the revolution that, for better or worse, helped reshape the modern world. Cuba can once again choose its own path and once again be a leader among nations. It can choose to be more democratic. Now that would be revolutionary.
Oh my God. How many times did they use regime in this article? Did they use regime?
Just one.
Only one
but
ruler.
It was about Venezuela.
Somewhere in okay. The Maduro regime.
Rulers were used several times. You already know what the fuck it is.
Yep.
You already know what the fuck it is.
Okay, one more from the New York Times.
It's white bullshit.
Real Orientalism hours.
Oh man, I didn't send you guys the screenshot, but I was in one of the beer groups that I'm in on Facebook. They were talking about Modelo time, and my buddy Rich, who's like from Mexico, he's like, this is bullshit. Like, I'm sick of these white dudes like taking Modelo time. Like, fucking cut it off. So under his thing, I just wrote "kill Whitey." Somebody reported me, and I got banned from Facebook for a day.
Wow!
In a private beer memes group. I was pissed. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" This is the same group that recently had jokes like memes about 9/11, which is like whatever. I don't care. Like,
sure.
Like, it's just dumb beer memes. But like, I get reported because I fucking wrote "kill Whitey." Fuck.
So yeah, last one from the New York Times. This is. In the opinion section, why 2018 was the best year in human history, with an exclamation point. By Nicholas Kristof.
You know what? I take back everything I said about the hope that I had for the future. And by the way, this guy's picture,
Man looks like a beaver.
he looks like a Southern Baptist preacher.
Google Nicholas Kristof.
Yeah.
This guy's fucking ridiculous. All right. So he says, the world, as everyone knows, is going to hell, but there's still the nervous thrill of waiting to see precisely which dark force will take us down.
What?
Will the economy collapse first, the ice sheets melt first, or the chaos and war envelop us first?
None of which affect this white ass motherfucker.
So here's my
I was
antidote.
gonna say this is such a white take.
So here's my antidote to that gloom. Let me try to make the case that 2018 was actually the best year in human history. Each day on average, about another 295,000 people around the world gain access to electricity for the first time. Every day, another 305,000 people were able to access clean drinking water for the first time. And each day, an additional 620,000 people were able to get online for the first time.
Hang on.
Those are probably mostly the result of China.
I was just going to say.
Wait. Hang on. I'm going to look up
my president.
how many people were born in 2018, because we need some perspective on how much 300,000 people is. Okay, so that's about 82 million people were born last year. So that is approximately 0.4% of the entire population of the people born got access to clean water. So I wonder how many new impoverished people were born.
Oh, God.
And how many more than 300,000 that was.
So Nicholas Kristof says, never before has such a large portion of humanity been literate, enjoyed a middle-class cushion, lived such long lives, had access to family planning, or been confident that their children would survive. Let's hit pause on our fears and frustrations and share a nanosecond of celebration at this backdrop of progress.
Please kill me.
White guy alert.
Yeah, and so...
By the way, it was less than 0.4%. It was more like 3.5, 330, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, and so he gives a bunch of like statistics about how like more people are getting vaccinated, that sort of thing. Like, yeah, these are great, but he says it is of course true that there are huge challenges ahead. The gains against global poverty and disease seem to be slowing, and climate change is an enormous threat to poor nations in particular. And the United States is an outlier where life expectancy is falling, not rising as in most of the world. So there's plenty to fret about. But a failure to acknowledge global progress can leave people feeling hopeless and ready to give up. In fact, the gains should show us what is possible and spur greater efforts to improve opportunity worldwide. Did anybody read, like, it was either this week or last week, there was a thing going around. I don't remember where it was. They were talking about hope punk. They're like,
What?
the most
No!
like seriously, they're like, the most radical thing you can do is like be hopeful for the future. And like, listen, we just talked about being hopeful for the future, but it wasn't like
I grew up listening to Christian punk. It's not great.
Well, that also sounds like
ska.
all those people that are just like, oh, well, like conservatism is counterculture, so it's the most punk thing right now. It's like
man.
fuck hope punk, fuck
Isn't
like
that like
conservative
Johnny
punk.
Rotten's take too? Like,
Yes, Johnny Rotten is like a piece of shit now.
the thing about like I feel like in the United
Punk
States
is
we
dead.
have this like weird like manic optimism, but like not optimism based on anything. Like you have to be feeling good all the time. You have to be
Yes.
excited. You have to be optimistic, or else like
Well, we've talked about this a lot, and especially Hyder talks about this, and that like one of the things that we have to do as communists is we have to help our comrades in spaces of mental health. Like there's so much overdiagnosis and overprescribing of medications that do not remedy anything when the actual issue is the conditions that we live in. And so like this forceful hopefulness, this idea that like, oh, well, like we're America, we'll get through anything. Like, yeah, we can do it. Like that's the kind of bullshit that puts people into spaces where they don't have the mental health that they need. They don't have the communities that can support them. And it's these fucking like ostensibly middle class white fuckers that are like, oh yeah, like everything's doing pretty well, guys. Like just be hopeful and it's going to change for the best. It's like it's going to continue changing for the best for you piece of shit.
Right, and this is something that Ezra mentioned, I think, in the feminism episode, that was like, I'm not disabled because of who I am. I'm disabled because of the system. And I was like, and I've heard this before. So I work in the writing center at the local university, and one of my like long-term like repeated clients that I had is she's sort of an older woman who she basically formed her own like degree certification, and the department agreed to it, which was basically disability studies, because it doesn't exist at UCCS, right? It's not a program, it's not a certification, so they allowed her to make one up for herself, which is really fucking cool.
This will be off mic. What's her name?
Her name is Andrea.
Yeah, she was in my women's and ethics class.
Yes.
I know.
So she brought up sort of a similar sort of concept, that it's not like being disabled is not a matter of who you are and how you were born and whatever. It's a matter of the circumstances that you live in, and whether or not those circumstances accommodate whatever it is about you, which is a difference from the norm, quote unquote. And I thought about this, and I was like, it's sort of like if everyone who had like degenerative ocular issues did not have access to glasses or contacts,
Right,
you would
right.
be disabled.
Yeah,
Effectively,
absolutely.
you would be disabled. And it's only by the fact that you have access.
80% of this room.
I know, everybody. 80% of the people at
Ezra
this
has
table.
glasses.
Oh.
Just isn't wearing them right at this moment.
So 100% of the people at this table
Use
need glasses, right? And if we couldn't get them,
100% of the proles need glasses.
100% of the pearls need glasses.
That's true.
Every single fucking one of us. Real shit. So we would all be disabled because we can't see without our glasses, or we can't see well without our glasses. But the fact that we have access to them, and the fact that we have the insurance to be able to get them, I suppose, although I haven't been to the optometrist in 2 years.
Oh,
so.
look at Mr. Moneybags over here has
Yeah.
insurance.
I have insurance, but I haven't been to that because it's expensive. Fucking
is.
Glasses are expensive.
Glasses are fucking
but like,
expensive.
that is the reality, is that if the world were to change to accommodate people who currently live with a disability, it wouldn't be a disability. You would have access to everything you need to function at a baseline of what you need to live comfortably. But that's
and here's the thing: is I guarantee you that a guy writing this, like, he probably has somebody in his family, immediate or otherwise, that probably has a disability, or otherwise what American society would call a disability.
Yeah.
Whether it's something as like highly diagnosed as like ADD or ADHD or whatever it happens to be. He probably knows somebody like that, but he's got money.
Yes.
And like that's the thing, is that wealth cures all disabilities because you're not
you don't have to think
seen.
about it.
You don't have to think about it, and you're not seen as disabled because your wealth gives you the opportunity to exist outside of that.
You can also build your life to accommodate for your
Right.
whatever
and
you struggle with.
there's a thing I was
I don't know if that's like 100% true, because there are people who have wealth and also have disabilities, which cannot be.
Sure.
But,
Right,
but it helps a lot, right? Like, it helps a lot.
Well, so there's a thing that I think it may have been on Twitter or something. Someone was sharing, they were talking to their therapist about like mental illness in particular, and like, oh, I hate that I'm depressed. Like, I'm reliant on these medications to function in society. And their therapist was like, most people are reliant on glasses, which is an external thing to
Right.
function in society, but no one talks about that. And so there are just different ways of thinking about, like, we don't talk about using glasses as cure, like making it so that people can participate in society and they're not considered disabled. It's the same thing for a lot of like people who have mental illness, people who have mobility, like different issues with mobility, different sensory disabilities or whatever. The way that the way that society is structured creates these things.
Right. I think often about like that story about going to the Gates house, where they have like Bill and what I can't remember.
Melinda,
Bill and Melinda
friend of the show,
Melinda.
both
talked
have
about them first episode.
badges, essentially, that every room they walk into, the lights and the temperature in the room automatically adjust to whatever their personal preference is. Could you imagine like the resources? So for people with sensory issues, or whatever lighting issues, if the world accommodated them the way that
Well,
Bill and
exactly.
Melinda-
Technology, the technology to accommodate all these things fucking exists, but it is not. It is like protected from the pores by like a dollar limit.
Pores.
Yeah.
pores.
Hey everybody, we're the Pores.
Man, we're dropping.
Welcome to Pores of the Round Table.
True. Man, no, we're dropping some spicy takes this dad. Ooh, it's good. Moving over to the Washington Post, published by
WAPO.
friend of the show, Jeff Bezos. I can't read any of the articles because I'm not willing to pay them $1. Several of us are students, and we could have figured out a way to do that, but we didn't before now. So I'm just going to read the opinions because those are free. It's like that thing you
Nice.
said last time about the white guys in the tent. Like, what was it?
Old men in the tent.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh yeah.
what is it? Free opinion.
It's
It may
like
not
some
be good,
fucking
but it's
meme. Yeah,
free.
it may not be good, but it's
Why?
free.
That's
There's
true.
They're got good
It's good. We're calling it back. We're
Plenty
calling
of
back.
time.
Okay. So I got a piece by friend of the show, Ann Applebaum.
No.
So this piece is why the world should be paying attention to Putin's plans for Belarus.
Okay. What are his
So-
plans?
Okay. So she's saying that, okay, so they're talking about September 11th. The day after that column was published, September 11th, 2001, 2 airplanes hit the World Trade Center, a third hit the Pentagon. What the fuck? Oh, okay. In the nearly 2 decades that have passed since, nothing in Belarus has fundamentally changed at all. Lukashenko is still Europe's longest-standing dictator. He is still harassing the opposition, manipulating the media, and keeping the economy under careful control. He still stays in charge partly with the help of his large eastern neighbor, which provides him with generous energy subsidies. But while Belarus stays the same, its large eastern neighbor is changing. In particular, the ambitions of Lukashenko's fellow de facto dictator, Russian President Vladimir Putin, are growing. With his economy still weak and his popularity wavering. Oh no. Russian government's raised energy prices. There's talk of Russia taking over a whole suite of Belarusian government operations, including customs, visas, monetary and tax policies, and that's the more moderate takeover. So basically, our apathy has a price. It's not just that Belarusians may be on the cusp of losing their independence. In addition, Moscow may be on the cusp of becoming, once again, a full-fledged imperial capital, absorbing and ruling over multiple countries. Once again, like back before the revolution, or are you talking like 20 years ago?
No, they're talking about social imperialism.
I know. She's talking about the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And not the Tsar. No, that will shape.
How does Marxist Center feel about this?
Putin once described the collapse of the Soviet Union as the greatest political catastrophe of the 20th century.
True.
It stands to reason that in the 21st century, he would try to put it together again.
He's not going to.
I wish.
Well,
Putin
okay.
is not a communist.
So hold up.
Critical support for Putin?
I said much the same sort of shit, right? And Hyder was like, look, because that's what he does.
You little prick.
You little prick. He was like, look at all of the various communist countries around the world and communist struggles around the world, and all of the things that all of these like Maoists are complaining that China doesn't do. He's like, Putin does that. And I was like, what? He's like, look at it. He's like, look at all the different struggles, communist struggles around the world that Putin supports financially, with weapons, whatever. And I'm like, what? What are you? What? I don't know. Whatever.
The ultimate hot take.
It's the ultimate hot take. I was like, I don't know if I buy it, but
real Hyder hours.
But that's
Yeah.
Hyder has a lot of those takes.
So many of those.
So many takes.
So many of those takes.
Yeah.
But so Belarus is like the only nation left that still carries on this sort of Soviet style government and economy and whatever. They
Proles 2020 hangover tour is going to
we should do that. Yeah, next year. Next year we'll visit the Eastern Bloc countries.
We have to end in like Moscow or St. Petersburg. Like we have to. That has to be like.
No. It finishes in front of Lenin's corpse.
You can't bring cameras
No
in.
cameras, but we'll. Take
I'll go to jail. I'll go to jail for it.
Let's go to like Tiflis in Georgia and just
Yeah.
Stalin's birthplace.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Cool. All right. Okay. Oh God.
I'm gonna buy so much Soviet merch.
I will. Yeah. I'll come back and just nothing.
I feel bad. That none of you guys-
just totally red tracksuit, like Adidas.
No,
like
I'm gonna be that that tanky cosplayer that all these left comms complain about. I'm gonna be that guy.
All right, one more from the Washington Post, by a friend of the show, Ann Applebaum.
Oh, our good friend.
Fuck off.
Don't let the nationalists steal patriotism.
Oh no.
On November 11th, world leaders gathered to mark the 100th anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. There were a lot of distractions that day. The U.S. president was afraid of some rain. The Russian president was insufficiently late. Since then, there have been more distractions. Gilets jaunes, the Yellow Vest protesters, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. Okay, all this shit. What is this talking about? So she says, it's worth pausing to remember the speech made that day by the French President Emmanuel Macron. If nothing else, it may point the way to a better 2019. Let's see. On the one hand, the French president described a nationalist, isolationist, internally focused vision of France. This definition of the nation has been around for a very long time, and it does have a deep primal appeal. Our interests first, and who cares about the rest, as Macron put it. This is something everyone can understand. But Macron also laid out another way of thinking about his country, a vision of France as a generous nation, of France as a project, of France promoting universal values, the exact opposite of the egotism of a people who look only after their own interests. This more idealistic patriotism, the exact opposite of nationalism, as Macron said, is a more difficult cause to support. So, right off the bat, there's an idea. People try to hold patriotism in opposition to nationalism. Nationalists, they're just patriots who go a little too far. I mean, that's basically what it's saying.
Well, but that also goes fucking hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier. Fascism is capitalism in decay, right? And you have these liberals that are always just America was always great, and like we're doing good stuff, and like let's really make America great again by doing all these cool things that America's known for. Like we got to be patriots and like support the troops and all this. And it's like liberalism is the left wing of fascism. It exists in the same place where their version of patriotism is a censored. It's a sterile version of a nationalistic patriotism, but it's the same shit.
Absolutely.
It's the Germans that cried when they had to be walked through the concentration camps.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. No, but I mean,
If you're still a liberal in 2019,
don't.
don't.
No, but I mean, but that's the thing is people talk about, patriotism is like supporting like the good things that your country does and being proud of the accomplishments it's made, whereas nationalism is saying like fuck everyone else. But there's not a meaningful difference between those two things. Is that ultimately like, so this person, Anne Applebaum, she's an American. If you are a patriot in 2019 towards America, like, you suck. like no, that's the thing. I don't care what, I mean, fuck. The only patriotism I want to hear about is like Cuban patriotism.
Death to America.
Death to America. I'm not whispering that shit anymore.
Full-throated condemnation of the United States.
Hey everybody, this is Sexy Taylor time.
So shifting
Death
away
to
from
America.
sexy Taylor time and onto the subject of Armistice Day. Kurt Vonnegut has this quote from Mother
Yes.
Night
Oh
that
my
goes,
God.
"Oh, it's just so damn cheap, so damn typical," I said. "This used to be a day in honor of the dead of World War I, but the living couldn't keep their grubby hands off of it. Wanted the glory of the dead for themselves. So typical, so typical. Anytime anything of real dignity appears in this country, it's torn to shreds and thrown to the mob." He's talking about basically when Armistice Day, which was a celebration of the end of World War I, and so November the 11th at 11:11, there was a moment of silence or a minute of silence that was to recognize the dead of World War I, and it became Veterans Day.
I mean, it's funny you bring that up about Armistice Day. There's the fucking.
He has another quote from Breakfast of Champions that is along the same lines. He has a real fucking beef with the change from Armistice to Veterans.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's just, someone who fought in World War II. Like
the entirety of Slaughterhouse-Five is a dismantling of war and like a
because he was in Dresden when it got bombed.
Yeah.
Like and the thing about Armistice Day that's really frustrating to me, or like Veterans Day is. There were a lot of really good poets writing from the trenches of World War I, and one of the most famous ones is like, what is the fucking? It's okay. So in Flanders Fields,
Okay.
is a poem that was written like about World War I, about the about the war, about the people who died, and it's talking about. The last stanza of it, so it's the in Flanders Fields the poppies blow between the crosses row and row. The last stanza is take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw, from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep. The poppies grow in Flanders Fields. It's saying like we died supporting our cause. You need to continue it, and that's what the fucking veteran. That's what fucking Veterans Day has been. Is like we need to support our brave troops who died defending our freedoms. And you know what? Like the only World War I, like the poetry that from World War I that we need to remember is like Dulce et decorum est, where he's saying like. That line, "It's honorable to die for your country," is bullshit.
Yeah.
And then you've got a line from Charles Sorley, who was like a 19-year-old like Scottish guy who died, who's saying, just look at this. We talked about poetry in the last dad, but like when you see millions of the mouthless dead, he died on the front at like 19 years old, but they found this in his bag after he died, and he was writing about like people, they die and they're fucking dead, and that's it. And that's what war, and that's what fucking war is, and it's perverse.
But not
to,
when it's fireworks on CNN or something. Like that's
Jesus
They
Christ.
get so excited about
I know.
like bombs being dropped. They're like, oh, look,
do you,
at
do you remember the bombing of Damascus last year, or
Yeah.
was that 2017?
I think it was 2017.
2017 after that whole like snafu with the fucking white helmets and fake chemical weapon usage and then they fucking lit up Damascus, and that was on TV. Like I was at work.
They don't even talk
watching
about
that.
it in a tragic sense. They're like the beautiful destruction.
Yes.
They get so excited about
The fucking shock and awe when we were bombing
Iraq.
That was unbelievable. That was
I remember
unbelievable
last
to
year,
watch.
what's the fucking idiot Brian Williams or whatever? He
Yep.
was saying like he was quoting Leonard Cohen like
Oh,
like,
God,
he's
why would you
beautiful.
do
What does he say? I'm gonna look.
Why would you ruin Leonard Cohen for me, Ethan?
The 4th, the
Don't-
5th, the 6th, the bomb.
No, I remember what you're talking about. Brian Williams, who's like the anchor on fucking what is it, CNN?
Wasn't he the dude
It's
that
MSNBC.
like, faked that he was
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Iraq? And
No, that was
Oh shoot! No, you're right.
that wasn't Brian Williams. That was
some other idiot.
He's an older dude.
Peter Jennings.
Peter Jennings. I think
Maybe.
it was Peter Jennings.
No, but so yeah, he said we see these beautiful pictures at night from the decks of these two U.S. Navy vessels in the Eastern Mediterranean. I'm reminded of the line from the great Leonard Cohen. I am guided by the beauty of our weapons. Yeah, it's awful. Like we're gonna do an episode.
literally
On,
kill yourself. Like literally kill yourself.
it's fucking ridiculous, and that's one of the things that we're gonna talk about in this art episode that we do with Mitch, Mitch Malloy, is that like art gets used so many fucking times to support like empire and capitalism. All is just fucked up.
Do y'all like? I think this may be like the third time I brought up Rain Laurent on this podcast.
I don't
but
remember if you
she
haven't.
made a post a couple of weeks ago that was like, art is never revolutionary, and I was like, I don't know if. And then but then she explained it. She was like, anytime that anything approaching art, anything approaching revolution in art ends up getting co-opted, redirected, liberalized, watered down. There's never been an art movement which led to revolution. There have been revolutions which led
Have
to
you heard
art.
the air horn version of the Soviet anthem?
That's
But
interesting.
there's never been an art movement which then led to revolution. There have been revolutions that developed their own art, but that's different. It's never in and of itself revolutionary. It never causes. It never guides revolution.
It's
It never.
a voice. It's like a,
You mean-
a reaction.
I mean,
to
art,
it.
Yeah.
That
well,
makes
no,
sense.
art. We'll talk about this at length in this episode.
Yeah,
but no,
yeah, yeah.
but the thing I want to say about that is that I don't. No, it's not sort of ex nihilo on its own causing revolution. But art is a propaganda tool used by revolutionaries who have an
but that's different.
to convey ideology. Well, no, I don't. Yeah, is anyone saying that art itself can cause revolution?
Yes, there were
That's
people.
dumb as shit.
There were like 200 comments in there where people were
Have you
like,
seen Man in
"Bullshit."
the High Castle?
So, just a couple more news things, and then we'll move on to the mailbag. Because I want to just introduce a.
You said one more.
Well, no, from the Wall Street Journal.
Oh,
or no,
Lord.
from the Washington
Wall
Post.
Street. We're bringing in the Wall Street
the
Journal.
Wall Street
Oh,
Journal.
Ethan, why would you do this to us?
Because it's gonna be
God, all you WSJ warriors.
dumb.
Wow.
Okay. Oh God.
Taylor
Come on,
Band.
that's kind of
I
funny.
Taylor
can't
Band
Take
from the
back any
podcast.
nice thing I've said.
This is. I just opened it I just opened the Wall Street Journal opinion page and just my hair went white, just reading the stuff. This is terrible. Okay. Let's see. Jobs for the forgotten man. Wage increases are reaching even on. Oh fuck. Never mind. You gotta log in. Fuck the Wall Street Journal. So our next segment, now that we've made it through all the fucking bullshit, that was good. That was good stuff, though. It was good discourse. We're gonna go to the Pearls of the Round Table mailbag, where
Yeehaw.
our almost exclusively our Discord patrons have asked questions. If you're not on the Discord and you want to ask a question, you can send us an email at pearlspod.com. Let's see. So yeah. Yeah.
At gmail.com? Or
Well, that too, but we're actually going to have a website at pearlspod.com. Wah, wah. But also you can send it at pearlspod at gmail.com.
I'm just kidding. I apologize.
No, it's good. Okay.
Can we set up emails under our domain?
With the expensive website, we can. So we can have Jeremy at pearlspod,
Oh,
Ethan at
shit.
pearlspod, Ezra at pearlspod.
Not fucking around.
Oh, no.
Amazing. Okay. All right.
I'm gonna use that on my resume, like Justin at pearlspod.com.
Well, I didn't get a job, but maybe I radicalized some people.
New patron.
All right. Okay. So Rain.
$18 a year, yeah.
369.
369.
Okay. So Rain asks, you get to talk to one communist thinker / country leader and pick their brain for a whole day. Who do you choose?
Alive or
I think I'll just say I'll edit this and just say, yeah, alive or dead. You can bring them back from the dead and do this for a day.
oh my god, this is really hard.
Whoever doesn't say Stalin is a revisionist.
It would either be Stalin or Fidel.
I think
That's
Fidel
tough,
would
'cause
be
Stalin
interesting.
is like literally like that's tough.
Fucking
That's
incredible.
tough. Yeah. I'm gonna exclude Stalin from
Sure.
the answer because
Yeah,
that's
let's
the
do that.
obvious answer.
Yeah.
And I've been reading a lot about Afghanistan, so I'm gonna say Hafizullah Amin.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
What would you?
Oh,
What would you want to talk to him about? Yeah.
I guess I would ask him what's the best way to organize in like a reactionary like regime because that's basically what he had to do. Environment. I would ask him how to organize in a reactionary environment.
Yeah.
Justin, how can I learn about revolutionary Afghanistan?
Well, there's a Proles Pod version of the Beverly Mail book, which is fantastic. One of the best books I've ever read.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And you can find it on prolespod.com.
Rollspot.com.
So yeah, I don't know. Fidel would be. Fidel would be good. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Marx would be actually
Yeah.
fun to talk to, just because like he was obviously wicked smart, but he was also like
Wicked strong.
he also liked having a good time. Like
Yeah.
he would like there are the stories of him just like, going on the bar crawls and like
Yeah.
like he also seemed fun.
Oh, a bar crawl with Marx? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in.
That'd be legit. But I think Fidel would be really interesting and fun to talk to because he also seems like just a very kind.
Have you seen Cuba and the Cameraman?
Huh?
Cuba and the Cameraman?
No.
You should watch it.
Is that a documentary?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's about, so it's this like hippie basically in the 60s that buys a camera first to document like the terrible living conditions of Americans in New York. And he uses that camera and he basically visits Cuba every 5 to 10 years from the
like-
time in which the
like,
revolution
check in?
happens. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Until, the 2000s. And
Really?
he-
Wow.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. He evolves into a lib, so like it just turns into kind of shit at the end. But like just the vision, like just watching like his it's really cool.
Cool. Cuba and the camera.
And-
Cool.
But there's a lot about Castro. He gets to interview him a couple times, and
Awesome.
he's just a super fun, like down to earth, like good human.
Yeah, all the videos I've watched of him talking to people, he just seems nice. Sankara
he wrote
also
a-
seems like fun to talk about. Oh,
In the late '90s or early 2000s, he brought his daughter, and he was like, she missed school to be here to see you, and he wrote like an excuse note to his his daughter's teacher,
so
like
cool.
so that it's like basically excuse her from school.
So, well, Ethan, like, what specifically would you talk to Fidel Castro about, or Marx, I guess? Your two
Jeez.
choices.
I mean, with Marx, I don't know. It's tough because, with Marx, a lot of the stuff from like the stuff that I have questions about are like in a modern era, and so
Right.
you'd have to spend at least half the day explaining like, okay, here's what happened, and he's like. Wait a sec! You can read books on your phone. What's a phone? Yeah.
Can you go back in time to visit him?
No, that's wild.
This isn't a
That's-
time travel question.
This is
I
not
like
we're
time
resurrecting
travel.
people. We're not going back in time. Okay. No, I don't know. I just.
I wrote a paper in one of my anthropology classes where a group of philosophers traveled into the future and then basically discussed the problems of today through each of their ideological lenses, and Marx was one of the people that I brought forward. Weber died in the travel from
Owned.
owned. Yeah.
So anybody else have anything, or should I move on?
Actually, probably Lenin as well, because I want to talk to his sassy ass, and then also get to know his cats. So resurrect his cats
That's
as well.
true.
I'd love to go back in time to like 1920, probably 27, and talk to Leon and put an ice pick in his head way earlier than he actually died.
Yeah, before he could get to the fucking Mexico, spread his bullshit to the
Right.
Oh,
US.
earlier I was gonna
Exactly.
say like there's like a Terminator.
no,
It's
I
like
wanna-
a Terminator thing here where like Jeremy's like, yeah, I want to go back in time, and like he does that, and then like he goes back early and ends up like adopting this life in Mexico, and like he's
no.
Jeremy's Ramon Mercader.
I want to I want to go back to 27 because I want him to be humiliated by getting like when he like goes before the entire party and he's like, yo, just like when the German army marched on France and the right-wing Jacobins murdered the left-wing Jacobins, we've got to unseat Stalin. Otherwise, if an imperialist power marches on the Soviet Union, he's going to murder everybody on the left. I want him to get humiliated in that vote where it was like 700 and something thousand to 15,000. I want him to get humiliated, and then I want to put an ice pick in his head. So
His ideas are immortal, Jeremy.
That's a really interesting way to answer that question.
no, but in seriousness, I think I would like to hang out with, mostly because y'all have stolen the good ones. I think Ingalls would be pretty rad to hang out with too. Ingalls
I
is
think
pretty
was
solid.
cool. Ingalls doesn't get enough.
Ingalls does not get
enough
enough credit.
love.
He's written like a lot of fantastic shit.
Yeah.
He was a good theorist, and
he-
he was like Marx's fucking sugar daddy.
Right,
He was-
exactly. He was the money behind Marx, but he also was like pretty
Yeah.
fucking solid on his own.
Yeah.
And like to get his perspective of that relationship
Oh.
would be amazing.
When
and
are we
also
gonna
we
do
could
an
talk
episode
shit
about Marx and Engels.
We
just,
could
like,
talk
as
shit
dudes.
about Stirner together, which would be fun.
Yes. We should eventually, just guys being dudes.
Just
yeah,
guys being dudes.
we should. I think that because they
Just
were
broing out.
God, could you just imagine, like, hey, Engels, buddy, you got kicked out of another country, so can you pay my way to go somewhere
Right.
else?
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, there are so many letters that we can see where he's like literally just saying like, "Hey, I need another 100 pounds. I'm sorry, man.
My
I got
bad,
these
bro.
creditors on my ass."
So I think for my answer, I would choose Lenin as well. I think probably first and foremost, one just to hear his English accent because
Yes,
he
Irish.
speaks in an Irish
Yes.
accent.
Yes.
Which would be wild, but also because like out of the two, I mean, fuck. Obviously, we all said we can't do Stalin. So like out of the three people that like wrote so many things that have just never been proven wrong, like have never at all like come into question about like, whoa, did they fuck up? Theory wise,
Never.
no. Like, yeah, they made mistakes. Okay, whatever. But theory wise, these fuckers never got anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marx is like batting 100 to 2019. It's
Yeah.
fucking ridiculous. So Lenin, just because of like all that, and yeah, he's sassy as hell. His polemics are great.
Sure.
Would
But I'm
wanna-
also-
you could
wow.
cook with hoe.
And so that's the thing. That was my second choice. Is like if I'm gonna do the Jeremy style, I'm going to London to work at the Savoy Hotel with Ho Chi Minh.
Yes.
and talk radical ideology while we're like
And radical
making
cooking.
Radical cooking.
That'd be sweet. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, Ho would be, and I'm obviously like a huge Ho Chi Minh fanboy. Like that was like I don't know. He's like a really like pivotal point in my radicalization as well as Fidel
most
Castro. but I
downloaded
don't know.
episode of Pearls of the Round Table.
He's just
Yet.
awesome.
Yet.
Or so far. No, the Ho Chi Minh episode was like 6 months in the making.
It was.
Yeah, it just my accident didn't really
Yeah.
help anything
No, it
there.
definitely didn't.
You were supposed to be like our third episode.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I think you had talked about that before the Soviet space program one. So okay, comrade can't get a job. This is Martin. Asks, oh God, how do you make a principle like anti-imperialism resonate with the white chauvinist working class in the imperial center? Short answers only.
What?
He said
Short
J-
answers.
JK,
Okay,
JK
okay.
is what he said.
Hey, can you repeat that?
How do you make a principle like anti-imperialism resonate with the white chauvinist working class in the imperial center?
That's
Thanks, Martin.
We could do a whole episode
Fuck
on
you.
that. We gotta think about this. Hold on.
Ugh.
In the in the United States or Martin's situation?
Period. He's the white
I mean, the
chauvinist.
Imperial
So
Center.
there's a
We're more
difference.
Imperial Center than he is.
Yeah.
Well, but he's in
Poland.
he's in the European Union, which is another of the imperialist
Sure.
centers.
Poland's like fascist. shit.
Well,
Yeah,
sure,
Poland
but,
is
but, but,
fucked.
but Poland doesn't have as much like.
But it is white chauvinist,
No,
which
it is.
his
It is.
question.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's different. I can't speak to Poland.
But
Sorry.
the reason I ask is because with Martin's situation is he has an issue of like reaching out to people. He feels like most of them are either white guys, and how he's organizing is different. With us, we have working class that are majority of marginalized people. My question is, why are we reaching out to white chauvinists within the United States to radicalize them?
I mean, I guess like what are the demographics? Like
They make up, I think it's like 31% of the quote unquote working class are
white?
white men.
white
We
men.
don't
Okay.
need, in the United States, we don't need to reach out to the white.
So I mean,
Sure,
yeah,
because
that's
white men
two-thirds-
are the like bulk of politically active people. Like, I mean, look at this fucking table.
I know,
There
I
are 4 white dudes at it, so I don't think we need to reach out to white dudes here. It's different in Poland than it is
It's different.
here.
Yeah, it's different in Europe. It's
It's
different.
very different in Poland.
It varies well,
Not all European countries are Poland. So it may be of
Ukraine.
necessity. Stop. It may be of necessity to reach out to white dudes in Poland, and how to reach them.
Bullets.
It's hard because it's
Bullets can go pretty far. They can go through walls, cars, windows.
just kill all white men. Like I think that's the
Yeah.
solution.
And this is a
I'll
really
take one for the-
Take one for the team.
sad.
This
Is a hard fucking
it's a
question.
very
I mean, this is
difficult
like one
question.
of the most important questions that we have to deal with as like people organizing in the Imperial Center.
Yeah.
Is like,
Yeah.
how do we target? Like, which part of the working class are we trying to focus our energies on?
Well, in CSS, the main issue I don't care.
I don't
was
care.
the director of outreach, and how like I would meet new people who wanted to be members of the organization, and most of the people I met with were white men. Hence why I brought up the idea of having them motherfucking read, because they need
Yeah.
like, so how I'm not worried about whether or not I can reach them. I just need them to understand where they are at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that's the most important thing, is that they need to know not only like what land they're on, but also like why they're able to
Yeah.
exist.
So basically, like agitate, educate, and then organize.
Yeah, and I think speaking to that too, organizations that don't have their membership or prospective members read beforehand or like show understanding of theory and knowledge of these topics are doomed. And like you have to have an
Yeah.
educated base. Like
Yeah.
And this comes back to ideas that we've approached recently. In various forms where people are saying, "Oh, well, we have to get to the masses and go to their level." That's bullshit. That's infantilizing. That's putting the onus on people, or not even putting the onus. That's reducing people down to their class and not their ability to be radical and revolutionaries.
Yeah.
And what that means is that the white guys that were always looking to join CSS, like, cool, you've read the manifesto, and maybe you've read some Engels, and maybe you've read some Lenin. I typically don't believe they probably ever did.
No.
They're like,
of course
I
not.
think Bernie was kind of cool, and I'm a
Yeah.
socialist.
That's exactly it.
But
That's
what
exactly
needs
it.
to happen is that they need to read Marx, they need to read Engels, they need to read Lenin, they need to read all these people. And then the most important thing before joining an organization in the Imperialist Core is reading people like Federici and Fanton and people that like actively talk about what your role as a white fucking dude
Yes.
needs to be within a revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
not here to be the next Stalin. We don't
Sure.
need that. That's not you. That's not your position. Like
Yeah, that's not
It-
where we're at.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah, exactly.
Like what you need to do is sorry. I
No,
just
keep
wanted
going,
to
keep
finish
going.
off.
Yeah, please.
Like for the idea of like approaching the rest of the white middle class or the white working class in our Imperial Core in the U.S. at the very least is one, don't focus on them, but
Sure.
when you do work towards organizing those people. White men need to be organized under the banner of understanding everything that gives them the position that they have in life and then deconstructing that. And
Yep.
that's that's where it exists. It's not about like, hey, have you like, you know, what is your position on this historical event? Like, yeah, they should know that. Absolutely. I think everybody should know these things. But like, it comes down to these ideas that you have to
Who are you?
deconstruct.
What's your place?
Right, exactly. And like I don't know how that translates to other places in the Imperial Core that aren't the US or Canada, because that's where we have experience.
Yes.
Right.
And especially like in reactionary Eastern European countries, or even like reactionary Central and Western European countries, like
Right. Where
they
white
have a
people are a
different-
much larger percentage of the population.
Right,
I don't know. I
there's
don't
a bigger
know.
issue there. And like I think that it comes back again to dismantling masculinity, dismantling the patriarchy, dismantling these ideas of what those white people are supposed to be, and letting them know that they're not it. That like they can organize and they can help work towards a better future, but like it's not a better future just for them.
I just
and,
called
like-
Chief. He said, "White people ain't it."
Well, no, and like Ezra, and like, what were you like? What was the stuff you were hoping people would read about specifically, like the like the indigenous
Yeah.
like parts of like where we are, like who the fuck in this city, or like specifically socialists in this city? How many fucking socialists know whose land we're on?
Exactly.
Like who can even say the names Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, like, or Apache? Like who can even say those things? And so like, and I think that's super important. And
All right, so Ezra, who do we read
yeah,
Oh, for like what?
for indigenous? Yeah.
yeah.
I can upload them. I can't. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
That's okay.
Put it in
I'll
the
put them
we'll put it in
in the
the stuff.
resource only because I know I need to add like works to it. But
Yeah.
decolonization as like a theory is very
Yes.
difficult. Because oftentimes it's in the ether. I mean, and
We could do a
when you
whole
re-
episode on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. We'll talk about indigenous.
Soon.
Oh, so
right.
exciting. But it's just, yeah, just you need to talk to the people that the land you're on. And then
Yeah.
I've been talking to people on the Discord about reaching out to people on reservations who
Yeah.
are having these conditions that are god awful. They don't have any running water, so they're not even a part. Like people in
Yeah.
the United States don't even have running water,
Yeah.
Flint, Michigan, or what have you. So like, we need to reach out first to the people on reservations in rural areas that aren't predominantly white,
Right.
And-
because they're not.
And I think so. I had an experience this past summer which was like extremely eye opening to me. And that was I went through archaeology field school. And
And you went to Standing Rock, right? So-
we did, that's another thing I
Oh,
could
shit.
talk about too, but so
Maybe save that one.
maybe
We'll see.
we'll see how like I can filter myself as I'm drunk. So I went through archaeology field school, and we went to a series of sites which were Native American like residential sites, processing sites, tool making sites, religious sites. And when I say this, you're imagining like either concentrated all in one place, or maybe you're imagining spread out over massive areas of land far apart from each other. These were all within approximately a 1.5 to 2 mile radius, all centered around the college campus. This wasn't like, we're not talking about like in the middle of nowhere. We're not talking about like spread out over like gigantic spaces where like here's the residential site, and over here we found a like a Vision Quest location, and over here we found, these were all like, and once you learn what a culturally modified piece of stone looks like, you will see them every fucking where you go. And that is now like, I don't know if you want to call it a blessing or a curse, but every fucking place I go in Colorado Springs now, I walk along and I look down and I'm like, fuck, that's a flake. oh shit, that's a tested cobble. Someone was checking to see whether this was sufficient for making tools. Holy fuck, that over there looks like an exhausted core where somebody was making projectile points, arrowheads, or spear points out of the end of this rock. They are everywhere. And that was like you imagine that native people were here, but you picture it as like isolated in the way that reservations are isolated from the rest of society. Right. But when you now can identify these pieces of stone that have been worked by human hands over the course of hundreds or thousands of years, what you then have to accept is that there was a point in time where indigenous people of the Americas were everywhere in this fucking country, and we stole it from them. We weren't like, oh, we're going to move in and build cities here and y'all aren't utilizing the land, so scoot out of here. They were utilizing the land in the way that the way they wanted to, the way that was socially necessary to support their society. But they were like, there is nowhere, I guarantee, nowhere in this fucking country that was not touched by human hands in terms of or walked upon by human feet in terms of indigenous people. Every fucking square inch.
Well, and that's why it's so important for socialists, and happens so rarely for socialists, to be talking about decolonization and indigenous issues. Like, and the thing I see a lot on like Twitter or God forbid Left Book is people talking about like, well, but does that mean I have to go back to Poland or the Netherlands or whatever? And like, if you talk to or read like an indigenous scholar's like stance on this for like 2 seconds, just read like one paragraph of it, pretty much nobody's saying like, oh yeah, everyone needs to go like leave. Nobody's saying that. Decolonization is something like much bigger than like, it's a much more profound like understanding of how we interact with space, interact with the world, than like everybody who wasn't whose ancestors weren't here like 1,000 years ago needs to move. Like, that's not what it is. And we don't talk about this, and so no one fucking understands it. And so as socialists, like, we really need to start talking to indigenous people and making this a big part of our praxis as socialists. It's super important. Specifically, like U.S. Socialists for sure, but I mean, there are indigenous people everywhere. So.
Yeah. I mean, Canada and Australia, New Zealand. They treated their native population at least as bad as the United States. In some cases, worse for longer.
Hard to imagine.
But it's been like in Australia they qualified their indigenous folks as under the same category as plants and animals for
flora and fauna.
Until like the 80s or 90s
in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember hearing about this and it blew my mind. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, it was and I can't remember the exact dates, but like even like less than a decade ago, there were still like indigenous peoples in Canada being moved to. Like taken from their families and moved to schools.
Yep.
Like that.
Were
like
like
the amount of languages that have been lost, specifically in Canada. Like I know that the U.S. is really bad about that. But like Canada's fucked up on like the way that they quote unquote re-educated.
Yeah, I mean, we do it in the U.S. too, but Canada has the like.
Justin Trudeau has not this Justin. Justin Trudeau has made some extremely problematic comments recently regarding.
No, and I mean that's the thing is like the U.S. With the boarding schools like has a horrible story too, but Canada has this idea of like, oh, it's so nice, it's like everyone's great there, like they are monstrous to fucking First Nation people.
And so like I love Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver for 4 years. I became an adult in Vancouver essentially. It's like I have a lot attached to Vancouver and Canada and like my friends and family up there. But like when I lived there, that was kind of like towards the beginning of my radicalization or like part of radicalization. And like, I remember growing up as like an American, and it was like the whole joke was like, especially being in Colorado and like growing up in the age of like South Park, where it's like, oh, like Canada's so funny and goofy, and like they're so nice. And it like paints this picture that like liberals still hinge on. It's like,
I still see this.
Oh God, I wish our president was like Trudeau. And it's like, what, a more hidden version of the same bullshit, like colonial, like ideals. Like that's
the same
that's
shit,
fucked
but
up.
he's like more handsome and like isn't.
Because he's Fidel
potentially
Castro's son.
Fidel Castro's son. 100. Look this up. This isn't like
It's a conspiracy theory.
Were we talking about conspiracy theories on an episode or something? I
history of
100% believe
history.
that one. It's real. Okay. So that was good, but we're gonna do an episode on this. Like, we'll continue this, but like
On the fact that Fidel Castro is
Yeah, we're gonna do-
Trudeau's father.
we're gonna
So
do
we're
an
gonna do a whole episode
on
breaking
Justin
down.
Trudeau's parentage. We're gonna be talking about like the facial structure. It's
It's gonna be like Charlie Day with the strings around the like
Yeah.
push pins.
Pepe Sylvia.
Yep, it's good. Okay. Okay. So, can y'all do a Proles episode, but instead of dirty booze, it's just weed? Said Kaladin.
No.
You mean beep beep lettuce?
We're still trying to figure out a time
Yeah.
to fucking go on.
I
Beep
think
Beep
we hurt
Bryn.
Bryn's feelings.
No, we're still gonna do it. Bryn just sent us a message. Bryn just sent us a message. Was like, "Hey, now this January, if you want to figure out a time," I was like, "Fuck, I'm so sorry. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it."
February.
Oh yeah, dude.
Jeremy,
Jeremy
and Taylor and I, we're
Yeah.
gonna like
Here we go.
smoke a big fat
Hey,
donk.
You
and
know how
just,
long
like
donk we're gonna slunk fat doinks,
slong some donk.
slunk some fat doinks, and
Yeah,
We
exactly.
should cut that off now. Let's just stop.
and it'll be the first time I've been high in several months at least. So
She's so
look forward to me just being like zoned the fuck out.
I was.
It's just no. Jeremy and Taylor are just not gonna talk. They're just gonna
Yeah,
be
we're
like
just
in
gonna
their
sink
chair
into the
staring
chair.
at me, and I'm just gonna be like,
Well, so I was walking to work last night, and I was on like not Cascade. I was on like Wasatch and Kiowa.
"No one knows who that is."
No, I know. I'm talking
No, I
to you
know.
guys. I'm on Wasatch and
Talking to the
Kiowa,
mic, though.
and this guy who I've seen around, and like I always say hi to when I walk to work because I've been walking to Brewers for years now. But he's a black man who rides around on like a mobile chair. And he was just like,
I think I've seen that guy, yeah.
He was smoking some weed, and he was like, "Hey man, you want a hit?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally."
Hell yeah.
I'm like standing on Wasatch, and I just like took a hit of weed.
That's
and,
what
like,
communism is
kept
like.
walking. I was just like, "Oh, all right, well, cool." And it was like a great night. I was like, "Oh, this
Yeah,
is awesome."
That's what communism is like. You're just walking and someone gives you weed. It's great.
That's apparently that's how North Korea is. They've got,
Hell yeah,
they've got
that's
like
great.
free legal weed,
Free doinks.
free doinks.
Kaladin asks, "How does Hyder feel about weebs?"
Oh man,
Weebs.
weebs.
Oh.
He found out about weebs from Taylor, actually.
who brought on the official Proles, who mentioned the official Proles stance on weebs in
Oh,
the
yeah.
Marxist
He's a-
feminism episode.
But Taylor's a self-hating weeb, though.
I'm not even a weeb. I think everybody at this table has admitted that they have seen and enjoyed anime. Like fuck you.
I enjoyed
admit
an
that I
anime
have
here.
seen, I've seen an anime.
and anime.
That's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Look, all I've ever
anime?
said. What?
What's anime?
This
No,
guy was.
no, move on,
this guy
no,
was.
move on.
This guy was watching Inuyasha like the whole fucking series back in like 2001. So
I think I don't.
Called
Well,
out.
before no, we can move on, but before we do, I have to say
Justin's over here.
we
cut
have
the
to
audio.
tell the story of Hyder finding out about
Oh
weebs.
yeah. All right, go for
So
it.
it
Tell the
was
story.
it was the anniversary, the 101st anniversary of the October Revolution Party. We've had one 2 years in a row now where we just get together and celebrate the October Revolution, and we just get drunk and we eat food and we hang out. So Hyder had made a pot cake.
Oh fuck.
That I didn't realize was a pot cake until I was halfway through, and I was like, "This doesn't taste just like cake." And Hyder was like, "Oh yeah, man, there's a ton of edibles in there." I
Oh
was
my
like,
god, I got fucked.
Oh,
up
yeah, it
so
was-
bad on that shit.
Yeah, and then I ended up smoking more with Hyder out back, and then we're like sitting on this couch or around this table, and there's like 10 of us at this point, and I'm like passing out on the couch, and then somebody calls Gabe a weeb. And Hyder's like, wait, what's a weeb? And we like I explain weeb to Hyder, and then like I'm like half asleep 5 minutes later, and Hyder just goes, "Shut up, Gabe, you fucking weeb." And I think the whole room must have just like lost its shit because it was so that's how Hyder found out what weebs are, and he hates them.
Well,
I don't think Hyder has seen anime.
he hasn't seen an anime.
I don't think he has.
Who?
Hyder. Probably not.
Yes,
You think he has?
I think so.
What has he seen? Cowboy Bebop.
No, I think it was Gabe was watching one day.
I'm sure it was something where
I just saw an anime. It
was hentai.
It was hentai. Stop.
Gross. Oh, no, this is a good question. Okay. So Southern Comfort asks, what new and exciting stuff do the Proles have planned in 2019 for the podcast and our community?
Wah, wah.
This is a good question.
This is a good question. Justin,
Justin, take it.
you're the producer.
Take it. You're the one who's.
Well, we are going to get a new computer so that we can avoid some of the audio problems that we struggle with.
Hopefully.
On the one that we have currently. We are going to launch a website, which should already be launched by the time this.
Yeah, hopefully by the
podcast
time you hear
drops.
this, prolespod.com will be live.
We are going
where
to
you can it's gonna be like an ebook library. You'll be able to buy like Prolespod hoodies.
Yep. We're going to continue to republish until we get
Cease and desist.
until we get cease and desist orders. We're going to continue to publish out of print texts that we think are important.
And then the other thing we were talking about, like we just came up with this idea. Like, what it was your idea? What was it?
Which was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and in addition to that, I think what we're going to try to do is get sort of somewhat well-known texts on particular subjects.
Right. So
And
instead
then-
of like the collected works of Lenin, we're going to
It'll be right. So it'll be like we'll take State and Revolution, and then we will gather together other lesser known but vital and more modern writers who have discussions on the same subject. So we'll take like Lenin's breakdown of indigeneity and how to deal with we could take Stalin's take on the national question and bring in other writers. So
Ho
basically,
Chi Minh, Nkrumah, like we can
So like a
just
Proles
build
like
and build and
indigenous
build, yeah.
book.
right, we would take a book and we would bundle it with something that's well known, so that people would be like, "Oh shit, I haven't read that, and I want to read
Then they
that."
sneak in,
and then we sneak in all the other writers, which
Pretty much
hopefully
it's just to sneak in Stalin into every book that we can throw out
no,
there.
but like I think more important than that is to sort of elevate the voices of people who may not have been read before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to get people also reading texts by more recent and more modern and less well known people,
Absolutely.
which is
Absolutely.
I think important.
Yep. We will also be launching some like merch, which we plan to make almost no money off of, if not no money at all. But yeah, t-shirts and hoodies and shit like that.
So
What's the big
and the
one
big-
though?
What?
the party.
The big one.
Oh,
Just mention it. We don't need to go into all the details.
Brown Jenkins United.
Brand
John
Jenkins
Jenkins
Limited.
LLC.
There we go.
So we are going to continue the Proles of the Game Table. We're going to launch, however, a campaign, which will be the characters basically continuing from episode to episode instead of doing one shot. This
Where everyone dies at the end.
Yeah.
we are going to hopefully take a Proles trip to some revolutionary country. And regardless of all of that, we do plan on taking like a Proles trip where we drop in on a couple cities where we have some
Comrades.
comrades to hang out with, record some episodes with. And
Proles road trip.
we're also going to spend the next couple of months, which I won't talk about in depth, but we are going to spend the next couple of months building basically a party program. How do we build a party in 2019 to a vanguard party to really kind of lead any sort of revolution that might happen and to guide the masses into something that's new, different, something that isn't just the reproduction of liberalism, the reproduction of the Western political system.
And it'll be. This is not going to be a U.S. only thing. This is going to be
This
global.
will be an international kind of. Certainly, it'll probably be specific to targeting like the Western left, because we're not going to speak for the.
No, but I think we are going to try to incorporate the voices of people who are not in the West.
Absolutely. But I mean, like, we're not going to tell people in like China how to organize, right? So
No.
Marxist
But
Leninist
yeah,
Center.
but basically to like build kind of a party program, an international party program that we think is what the world needs right now, and has not been provided with yet.
Yeah.
obviously built on principled Marxism, Leninism.
Yes, yeah,
This
absolutely,
is,
unquestioned.
this is not a Big Ten party. This is a Marxist Leninist party.
And we're going to try to learn from the successes and failures of past parties as well.
Exactly.
Yup.
Cool. Yeah. So that was a good question. Just a couple more, and then we'll hold this on. Ingle Dingle asks, favorite beer styles?
Ooh,
Taylor's like,
Taylor
eyes
just
light up.
died.
But beer is like type of beer.
I guess.
Yeah, beer styles.
And then
so.
for those not into beer, what seltzer besides La Croix is best?
I love the at me.
No, so well, I mean, I won't be able to talk at length about this. The best ones. You mean the ones I like? I like lagers and like wheat beers and shit because I'm a baby who has a very small palate in terms of beer. Yeah, so I like, and obviously I'm the one who drinks like the shitty beer every episode. And I'm gonna continue to like rep that because my beer palate is not developed, and I plan on keeping it that way.
So revolutionary. Oh, so
Fuck yeah.
edgy.
We'll go. Should we go this way so he
Yeah,
can
let's do it. Let's go clockwise.
Okay, so yeah, Taylor will be last because he'll talk for 20
Talk for
minutes.
45 minutes.
And Ethan will edit it down to like
It'll be I
I like beer.
else.
I like beer.
like he did to me with my emo
I
question.
like emo.
I like emo.
I saved a little bit of it.
No, you didn't.
I
it was
did.
literally I like emo.
Yeah,
No,
that
there was a bit.
No, it was anyway. My favorite beer is emo. So it depends. Like I like to drink when I'm like just when I'm on the podcast now. All I can drink is lagers because if I drink anything else, I get too drunk and I'm like, oh, where am I? But in terms of like what I enjoy, I really like box, like my box and ice box and doppelbox, and I like porters and sour beers.
Nice.
Well, Jeremy and I are.
Justin likes Pinner.
It's true. Jeremy and I are different on not many things, but beer is one of them.
Yeah.
I like IPAs. Like I will ride or die with almost any IPA. And I like sours as well.
Do you like MPAs?
It's what?
Do you like MPAs?
I haven't tried it yet, so
Oh, you're sick. Don't drink my beer.
Just chug it all. My
it's
germs.
sick for like 16 days. It's like a sinus infection at this point.
The alcohol kills.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's like it's almost like an IPA. I don't know.
Anyway, I like IPAs, sours. I like from then it's like wit beers.
Nice.
But they're okay. Like I don't want to drink a lot of them. And then that's basically it. I mean, I hate the things I hate are pilsners, and anything dark. So
Porters and stouts and whatnot.
porters, stouts. Yep.
I keep saying all these words. I'm just like,
anything
I know
that's
those are
super-
beer things, but I couldn't tell you what they are.
Anything that's even like remotely malty is just disgusting to me. So
I'm gonna go back to high. I'm gonna go back to high school and bring a Mickey's next time.
Oh
A
god.
Mickey's hand grenade. Just one.
Got some Mad Dog 2020 over here.
That's not beer. Shut up.
no,
Go
I
away.
know. We're just talking about shitty alcohol. All right.
I'll bring a fucking, if not a Mad Dog 2020, then some Boone's Farm maybe.
Oh my god.
We're gonna-
I don't know what that means either.
You're better off that way.
Yes. I guess. Well, I like sour beers. I don't drink a lot on this podcast because I get really silly. I don't want
Oh,
to.
that's what we like. That's what we like.
That's what they're paying for.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, I'll be really silly, but it's like obnoxious silly. Like I can't be that silly. But anyway, seltzer waters I enjoy. I like American Clear, which Violet and I both I guess agree on. She likes the cherry flavored.
Not to be confused with Clearly Canadian.
Yeah. Oh yes.
What? Is that a
Clearly
thing?
Canadian, yeah.
Oh god.
That was like in the 90s, it was like the shit.
That was before my
it
time.
was
Yeah.
Jeremy's shit because it's
It
the only
was.
thing he could fucking drink.
Yeah, I was allergic to everything when I was a kid. Fucking everything.
Except seltzer water.
Anyway, no, I'll let Ezra finish and then I'll get back to my weird shit as a child.
I just like mango.
No, we're gonna cut Taylor.
flavors,
Taylor doesn't get to answer this question.
Strawberry flavors,
Nice.
and then water with lemon or tea.
Nice.
I'm
That's
done.
good.
I like
Tea.
Perrier.
Oh, and also the Trader Joe's flavored seltzer waters.
Perrier.
Those are really
Perrier.
good.
When
Taylor
when
Eagle.
Justin and I were on tour, I would like
Taylor's canceled.
When Justin and I were on tour, I don't know what it was, but I started like drinking bottles of Perrier, like on stage,
Like the those
big fucking
oh
bottle, and I would
God.
just be like, I don't know if people thought I was drinking alcohol but that was.
That guy's so cool.
Oh, he's got a bottle of Perrier. I had swine flu. It was awful.
I need to release that like 5-minute chunk of you
That
guys talking
story.
about fighting and having swine flu on tour, just like on the feed for people who maybe didn't
Oh,
listen to
man.
that. That'd
It
be
was
fucking
wild.
hilarious.
All right, Taylor.
So again, like I'm a brewer, and like that's my profession. I've been brewing for a long time now, so like it's hard to.
And that's where the audio is going to get cut off. So I'm a brewer.
So what
All right,
I'm
so the next question
going to
is,
say is that I actually pretty much like all styles. Like I have an appreciation for them.
I can confirm this. So, like, as drinking with Taylor for a couple of years now, he drinks fucking everything.
Yeah, I definitely go through phases. I think again because it's my profession. Like I'm in the industry. I get tired of something and I'm like, oh, I haven't had this, and like I just kind of go back and forth. I'll always drink hoppy beers. Like they're really enjoyable, and like they always kind of like differ, and there's enough there that like is interesting. But like right now, like saisons are my jam. Saisons and like lagers. I like a lot of old world stuff right now, like old world in the beer world. Sorry, I don't know what that means.
Big nerd. This is going to turn into the fucking thing with the music again.
No. So like I
like
like
saisons.
really like quote unquote rustic styles.
Okay.
There was I get a bunch of beer publications in magazine form. And there was one recently talking about chicha, which is a Peruvian drink that's been so like miscategorized and like mistalked about as like, oh, like don't they like have to chew it and spit it out to like develop the enzymes to make the beer? And it's like it's racist bullshit that
Sure.
Americans like, "Ugh," but it's like low ABV, like lactic fermented or like well, I mean, so sours are made with lactic producing bacteria, right? Like
Yeah.
lactic acid,
Okay.
so lactobacillus, pediococcus, whatever.
I'm learning new stuff.
Yeah,
That's good.
Ethan's
No,
over here just like having his mind blown.
Well, I do sourdough, so I know.
Yeah.
It's a similar concept.
Oh yeah, entirely. A lot of the microorganisms are the same, but like I think things like that are really cool. I think there's a lot to be learned from like these places that have been doing these styles for like
Sure.
forever, or these beers or drinks or whatever for forever, but don't get the same like hype that like the American brewing scene is really hype driven, and like I could do a whole episode on how much I fucking hate beer culture, but.
Beer episode when?
So I don't know. Like I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening out there. My current obsession is saisons, like farmhouse ales. There's a guy going through Northern Europe and like cataloging and like talking to brewers of farmhouse ales in Northern Europe.
Yeah.
And they found this yeast strain that kind of resembles a lot of like saison strains from the Flanders region in Belgium, called Quique, and it's really unique in the way that it ferments, and it's super cool. So like I like farmhouse, like rustic beers, or like kind of like where I am really like digging a lot of stuff right now. Just like older, funkier. I like a lot of weird flavors. I went to culinary school and then I went into beer, and so like the flavors that interest me the most are the ones that are probably like weird to a lot of people, or at least a lot of Americans, like a lot of white folks.
A lot of white folks. There's a lot of white folks in Northern Europe, though.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, okay, so that's
lot of
why I said a
Americans.
lot of American white
Sure.
folks have basic ass palates.
Like Ethan over here.
Like
That's
Ethan over
me.
here.
That's me.
And so I like really strange flavors. I like weird experiences.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where my beer palate is right now.
Yeah.
And it's just, it gets weirder and weirder. I don't
I was
know.
thinking about, we were talking about sourdough a second ago. I was thinking about sourdough is kind of like the seltzer water version of bread.
What?
Like
Yeah,
it's like
I get it.
It's like see.
It's spicy. Spicy
Yeah,
water.
sourdough's like spicy
Spicy
bread.
water,
It's like
spicy
spicy bread.
bread.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
Sourdough's fantastic.
La Croix is spicy water.
Okay.
It's good.
All right.
Okay, one last question.
Wait,
Okay.
which question? Well, go ahead.
What?
Wait, which question are you? Well, go ahead.
That wasn't a question. I was just thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so our last question for the night is which Hogwarts house would each pearl be in and why? From Elizabeth Warren Fortnite Dance. So I'll just preface,
Alexa is canceled.
I've never read a single
Tegan.
I've never read a single Harry Potter book, and I saw the second part of the last movie because I worked at a movie theater and I was trying to get my brother's girlfriend in. So I don't know. I'm told people have told me I was Ravenclaw, but that literally is meaningless to me. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I've seen the first movie. I watched it in theaters high as balls. I've never read any of the books. I've seen
Smoke a
bits and
doink.
pieces of almost all of the movies, but I haven't seen any of the rest of them in their entirety. I have no idea what any of the houses are, except I know Slytherin is supposed to be kind of the bad guy, and Hufflepuff or something is supposed to be the good guy.
No,
I don't know.
but I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and play the sorting hat right now.
Okay.
Ethan, Ravenclaw; Justin, Gryffindor; Ezra, Hufflepuff. I'm gonna also say Taylor, Gryffindor; me, Ravenclaw.
Nice.
Done.
Real Ravenclaw hours.
Wow.
Sorting
I didn't
What does
expect. I didn't
Hufflepuff
expect
mean?
somebody to throw me into
It's-
Gryffindor.
I-
but
Yeah,
all right.
no, I would say
from what I've
Gryffindor.
heard from Twitter, like Hufflepuff, that's where like
There-
the good pure.
Okay,
There's no,
but-
but Slytherin is not necessarily bad. They're
No,
just
it's
like
just-
ambitious. I'd say that like every like modern capitalist is probably
No,
Slytherin.
that's a bullshit retcon. Like we have to talk about the fact that like.
well, that's
this
all
person-
J.K. Rowling does is
Well, yeah, it's
retcons.
retcons. So here's the thing: is
Her
like
name is literally JK.
to get thrown into Slytherin nowadays is like, yeah, oh, you're ambitious. And
Yes.
You want to go get
Yeah.
things, but like
Yeah.
the way the books are written, it means that you're a fucking
You're evil.
nationalist.
Yes.
You're like a wizard. Like
Wizard Nazi.
You're a wizard,
Wizard Nazi.
Like
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Hitler.
Oh God! All right. So thank you all for tuning in. No,
look, don't.
I'm glad. No, thank
God,
you.
this fucking Harry Potter meme. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
It's happening.
It's your fault. You made this.
Yeah, because I have to point out how
Read another book.
read another
No,
book.
I did read another book. It's called 1984. Maybe you've heard of it.
Animal Farm.
Animal Farm.
Well, just like I.
It's called Atlas Shrugged.
Whatever.
Okay.
The fountain.
The Fountainhead.
Fountainhead.
The Fountain.
Fountain.
The
Oh,
fountains
I
of
missed the
film
question.
that I
They
like.
both bullshit.
We'll save that one for later.
We'll save that one.
We'll save that one. We're almost out of questions, so I want to save some for next time. All right, so that was a long episode, but we were on fire and like none of us wanted to stop. So like we were just like,
Hashtag can't stop, won't stop.
yeah, we were just like just dropping takes, like carpet bombing you with just,
Like Dresden.
God. Yeah. Anyway. No, but so this was the January edition of Dialectics After Dark. We're getting it out real early. But there's other bonus things coming out this month. Yeah, lots to look forward to in 2019. So new year, new proles. No, it's new year, same old proles, but new like just
Equipment.
new equipment and new
Well, no, new
spicy
proles.
takes.
New year, new proles, same bullshit.
Yep.
We're back on our bullshit.
Implying we ever got off it.
Yeah.
So-
We never got off our bullshit.
So, no, but yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in. This episode was sponsored by Hims, which sends you like testosterone. No, I'm just kidding. It's not sponsored by anybody except for the patrons who are listening to this. No, thank you all so much. We talk about this every like the end of every dad episode ends with us talking for 10 minutes about like how much we love our patrons and how nice it is. Like that's all. That's true. It's still the same. We still have the same feelings.
You're all the real proles.
Exactly. Like the real proletarian heroes are everyone. The real pro. The girl listening to this. No. No. But so no. But yeah. Thank you all so much. We're gonna be. God, we got some bomb ass episodes we're recording this month. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So the next couple months of Proles things are going to be amazing. Thank you all for coming along with us for this long, and we're just getting started. So thanks everybody. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye.
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 岁月不居，时节如流。2018年，我们过得很充实，走得很坚定。这一年， 我们战胜各种风险挑战，推动经济高质量发展。同各国领导人进行了广泛交流，巩固了友谊，增进了信任，扩大了我们的朋友圈。嫦娥4号探测器成功发射，第2艘航母出海试航，国产大型水陆两栖飞机水上首飞，北斗导航向全球组网迈出坚实一步。这一年，我们隆重庆祝改革开放40周年，推出100多项重要改革举措。世界看到了改革开放的中国加速度，看到了将改革开放进行到底的中国决心。我们改革的脚步不会停滞，开放的大门只会越开越大。一步一个脚印，把前无古人的伟大事业推向前进。2019年有机遇，也有挑战，大家还要一起拼搏，一起奋斗。放眼全球，我们正面临100年未有之大变局。无论国际风云如何变幻，中国维护国家主权和安全的信心和决心不会变，中国维护世界和平、促进共同发展的诚意和善意不会变。我们将积极推动共建“一带一路”，继续推动构建人类命运共同体，为建设一个更加繁荣美好的世界而不懈努力。